I can't move. Oh, wait, this was first set of meetings that we couldn't approve last. This one.
And we're gonna request to defer both sets of meeting notes.
Do I need to, can we defer them?
Just
announce them as being.
Yeah, just announce that we do not have a quorum for either set, so we need to refer them.
Wait to the block.
The bragging rights, most efficient, quickest meeting on record is.
You can bring, start 30 seconds early.
No, you can't have a delete.
All right, don't be afraid.
Our lawyer should not be invited at this.
She's a win, things then episode 5:15. All right, this is the November 4th, 2025 meeting of the City of Charleston Board of Zoning Appeal and Zoning. Present are Gordon Huey, Chapman McKay, Allison Grass, Robin Richards, Howell Morrison, myself, John Bennett as chair. Present from the planning staff are Robert Summerfield, Matt Slagle, and Chris Swalha. These proceedings are being recorded, and we ask that those who speak identify themselves for the record.
I apologize. We're gonna do a slight intro because I need to publicly
Please do.
not shame so much as acknowledge that both of our team members won. We had a costume contest here for all the departments in the Gilliard, and they both relatively brand new employees both won the joint won the individual costume award. So
Give them a promotion.
give them a shout. They're already senior planners. They can't get much more promoted. So anyway, wanted to take a second to call them out while we're there.
Thank you for that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right. We will conduct this meeting in usual fashion. We will first receive information from city staff about the application and their recommendation. If the recommendation is favorable and no one objects to the application, the matter is uncontested. The Board of Zoning Appeals usually, but not always, approves uncontested applications. For all applications, the board reserves the right to ask questions of the staff, applicant, or others in attendance prior to rendering a decision. If, however, the city recommends against the application or there is opposition to the application, we will treat the application as contested and hear from the applicant and anyone else who is in favor of the application. Next, we will hear from anyone opposed, followed by a short rebuttal from the applicant. We then close the public hearing portion of the meeting for that particular application and open discussion to the Board of Zoning Appeals members only. We will then make a decision to approve with conditions, or deny the application. The Board of Zoning Appeals Zoning has the authority to do three things: hear appeals to decisions of the zoning administrator. Second, grant special exceptions, a fact-finding function of the board. And third, grant variances to the zoning ordinance if the application meets the hardship test outlined in section 54-924 of the ordinance. The board may deliberate and make a final decision on a matter by a majority vote of members present at the hearing and qualified to vote, provided that not less than a quorum is present and qualified to vote. However, an affirmative vote of 2/3 of the board members present and voting shall be required before a use variance may be granted. For a variance to be granted, the Board of Zoning Appeals must make the following findings. A, there are extraordinary and exceptional conditions pertaining to the particular piece of property. B, these conditions do not generally apply to other property in the vicinity. C, because of these conditions, the application of the ordinance to the particular piece of property would effectively prohibit or unreasonably restrict the utilization of the property. And D, the authorization of a variance will not be of substantial detriment to adjacent property or to the public good, and the character of the district will not be harmed by the granting of the variance. We have two items that are being deferred for lack of quorum. These are just the minutes from our October 7th, 2025 meeting and our October 21st, 2025 meeting. Those items will not be heard tonight. All other items are still on the agenda. At this time, I'm required by our city's ordinance to ask that anybody who intends to speak tonight be sworn under oath. So please, if you intend to speak tonight, raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? You will signify by saying, I do. I do. Thank you. Let's see. First item on the agenda under section B, new applications. B1, 10 Parkwood Avenue, West Side, Council District 6, TMS number 460-07-01-094, Zone DR1F, requesting special exception under section 54-110.F to vertically extend non-conforming side setbacks that total 13 feet 9 inches. 15 feet are required for a 2-story rear addition. The owner is Robert Edward McMillan II. Applicant is Permit Expediters of SC LLC, CO Matt McCauley. Mr. Summerfield.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, so you can see the property here is mid-block between Congress and Sumter Street on Parkwood Avenue. It is a narrow, long lot, as is very customary in downtown. You can see here on the aerial as well. Again, long, narrow lot, house, basically older properties, they often have the setbacks. Here's another good view of it here. All right, so we have the survey image here. You can see the existing locations of the house. They are proposing, and zoom in on this so you can see it better. They're proposing an addition into the back, and so they're just proposing to take the existing setbacks on either side. This is a zoning district that does have a total side setback where it's not a side plus side equals, it's a side minimum plus a side minimum must combine to equal a greater number. And so that's why we have this as a combined setback issue. Again, these are existing setbacks that the home currently has. They're just going right in line with the house for the proposed addition. You can see this would be a 2-story addition, a new great room on the ground floor, and then a new master bedroom on the top floor for a family that has expanded in recent years. You can see the way the roof basically adds on. Again, this is an addition to, I believe, going to stay within our historic context, try to minimize the impact of the addition on basically the front of the home, the street side of the home, by again going back along those existing setback lines. You can see the elevations here, that we have no recent case history or relevant case history. This is a special exception, maintaining existing setbacks, not creating any encroachment or exacerbation of those. So staff is recommending approval of the request.
Thank you, Mr. Summerfield. City's recommendation is approval for 10 Parkwood Avenue. Is there anyone present in opposition, just by a show of hands? Any opposition? Hearing none, is the owner applicant present, wish to speak? You wish to come up and?
I don't necessarily feel the need to speak.
Okay. Any questions for the applicant?
I'll make a motion for approval.
Mr. McKay makes a motion to approve. I had a second by Mr. Morrison. Any further discussion? None. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None are opposed. The special exception for 10 Parkwood Avenue is approved by 6-0.
And Mr. Chairman, I was remiss, we did have one public comment that was received in support of that item.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Summerfield. All right. Next item on the agenda is B2, 3 St. Margaret Street, Wagner Terrace, Council District 6, TMS number 463-15-01-041, zoned SR2, requesting special exceptions under section 54-110F to vertically extend a non-conforming east side setback of 1 foot 4 inches, 9 feet required, and non-conforming side setbacks that total 13 feet 11 inches, 18 feet required for a 2-story rear addition. Owner is Dominique and Nicholas Godfrey. Applicant is Nicholas Godfrey. Mr. Summerfield.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, so this is a property on St. Margaret Street, just a little west of Rutland Avenue. And my computer doesn't have any connection issues, so I apologize if the slides are a little slow. So again, you can see here in the aerial, this is a again typical relatively narrow lot, not as deep of a lot as we see in other parts of town, but very representative of what we see often in the Wagner Terrace area. Aerial from a different viewpoint there. So you can see here in the plans, they are proposing in addition to this home. Let's see, you can see where they're adding what will be a new master bedroom and some new upstairs bedrooms as well. Drawings are a little out of our normal order, so now we have the site plan here. All right, so you can see the proposed addition. So the existing home is not conforming to setbacks, specifically that west setback, as you can see here in the image. So the proposed addition would be within the rear setback. Obviously, it's meeting the east side setback, but it would still have an encroachment within the west side setback that the special exception is for. And then again, they're doing a
North is down in this,
I'm sorry.
so it's step back.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So reverse all those directions that I just said. And at any rate, you can see where the existing house is relative to the property line and to that setback on the east side. The proposed addition, while it would continue to encroach within that setback area, is actually less of an encroachment than the existing side setback. These are special exceptions under our rules, and technically not an exacerbation of those setback requirements. So as such, staff from a zoning standpoint is recommending approval of the special exceptions. You can see though that this addition is much larger than the rest of the house. I think you do have one letter of opposition in the packet from the Preservation Society that does speak more towards architecture and neighborhood character than just the pure zoning aspects of it under a special exception. Again, it's not a variance, so it doesn't have the variance test. It is a special exception. You can see some photos of the home here in the backyard. We don't have any relevant case history. Again, while we do acknowledge that it is a substantial addition that they are proposing on the property, based on just a review of the special exception for the setbacks, and the fact that we did not receive any opposition in comment from any neighbors that would be affected by the proposed impacts on the setbacks. Staff is recommending approval of both special exceptions for this request.
Thank you, Mr. Summerfield. Is the What is the review from a BAR standpoint? Where does that go next?
So there will be some demolition of the rear wall and potentially, I would imagine, some elements of the roof in order to accommodate the addition. So BAR would have purview in this area for the demolition request, the removal of historic materials. They would not, by application, have review of the architecture on the proposed building. Again, as has occurred once before, you all do have, if you have a concern about how that architecture would impact the community character based on your special exception rules, you do have the ability to, as a condition of approval, require that the item have full BAR review. Additionally, council just adopted an amendment to the ordinance for properties within the demolition purview, essentially those properties north of Line Street that are under BAR, to allow an optional process where if as a part of a demolition request, an applicant can actually now submit their entire proposed project for BAR review. That context can often help the BAR when they're having the demo or not to demo discussion, because then they can better understand how any alteration to the property is going to either assist with maintaining the historic character of the neighborhood or not, and make that as a part of their findings. Whereas often they have struggled with demolition requests where they don't know what's coming next. They don't know how that demolition and loss of historic materials will potentially impact neighborhood character. So
You lost me a little bit. You said
Sorry.
we could condition our approval on BAR.
you could condition your approval to require, you've done this once before, and the ordinance specifically addresses this, that if you have concerns about how elements of architecture that would be eligible under the variance or special exception that you would be considering, that you can require them to go to BAR for BAR review of the architectural elements, since that's not necessarily in your purview, but as a part of your test, community context, as can be impacted by the approval of these development standard adjustments, is within your purview. Sorry, that was a lot, so hopefully all that makes sense.
Thank you, Mr. Summerfield. All right. I know we have one letter in opposition. Is there anybody here present in opposition that wishes to speak against this application? I see one hand up. Okay, we'll hear first from the applicant or the owner if they are here and wish to speak. Come on up, please, and state your name and address for the record.
Evening, Nicholas Godfrey, the owner and applicant of 3 St. Margaret Street. My family and I initially decided to expand our home right around the time COVID was hitting, so it's taken quite some time to get to this point, but yet our family still continues to grow, and we have a modest home. We've lived there for 15 years now. Pretty sure we're going to stay for a while. And we like it here. So obviously all we're trying to do is add enough bedrooms for our children, and we only have 1 bathroom right now, so it'd be kind of nice to have more of those. That's all I'd really like to say about that.
Thank you, Mr. Godfrey. Any questions?
Thanks. Did you reach out to the owner closest to the east side setback?
Miss Seabrook?
I
Miss
didn't-
Rose? Yeah, I did. Yeah, we're good friends. We've talked.
And she supports your application?
She does. Yeah.
Did you happen to go before the Wagner Terrace Neighborhood Association?
I actually did not to my recommendation.
Any other questions? All right, anyone else here in support of the application? Thank you, Mr. Godfrey.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll hear from opposition.
Anna Catherine Alexander with the Preservation Society of Charleston. And just to start, we are in favor of property owners being able to stay in their homes and make reasonable changes. And so we hope that there's a path forward for that, but we are not in favor of this particular proposed approach. In considering the reasonableness of an extension under section 54-110F, the board must consider the effects on properties in the vicinity and impacts on the aesthetic character of the environment. The proposed addition is out of scale with the streetscape, where 2-story additions to 1-story buildings are an anomaly and would result in an unreasonable intensification of the non-conforming use. Less intense solutions to gain additional square footage could include pursuing a linear rear addition at 1 story or a sensitive dormer addition, which are more in keeping with the architectural patterns of the neighborhood. We ask the board to deny this request as proposed. However, to Mr. Summerfield's point, if the board is inclined to grant approval, we ask that it be conditioned on full BAR design review. This has been an effective condition in the past for similarly impactful requests in the historic materials demolition purview district, where only demolition review is required. And this helps ensure compatibility of the proposed addition. Thank you.
Ms. Alexander, I have one question. Do you have any feel for whether the Wagon Terrace Neighborhood Association, whether it has any position on these kinds of additions that come before us pretty regularly in Wagner Terrace, a 2nd-story addition to a 1-story building?
I can't speak unilaterally for the neighborhood, but I can say that they do appreciate the chance to review these types of requests. And they were very supportive of the area character appraisal that was drafted for this neighborhood that really enforces preservation of neighborhood character. And that's something that they look critically at with each request. So
Even if they don't pay much attention to the posted red signs, I guess, about the notice. Okay, thank you.
thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Alexander. Anyone else here in opposition? Okay, we'll hear from Mr. Godfrey if you wish to rebut.
Yeah. We actually went through a few different iterations of the design context. We looked at a house that was on the corner of Maple and Darlington Street. I think it's 146, that had been professionally designed some time ago. It didn't have the same challenges with the setbacks, but they did design a 2nd-story addition that we drew a lot of inspiration from to try and help us stay within the historical context of the home. And I personally have a degree in history. I've worked in historic preservation my entire career, almost 25 years here. Currently, I'm working on a home in downtown Somerville that was built in 1873, and I'm going through and doing a lot of forensic work for the new owners. And so I do cherish keeping that historic fabric looking authentic, but also having the ability to accommodate the needs of my family, you know. And so if there's anything that can be done to allow us to continue with our plans to build, that would be great. I would love to put bay windows that are, you know, there's a lot of things that I would love to do to make it more architecturally ornate or fitting of the time period when the house was actually built. And so I would be more than happy to go back and I guess talk with the neighborhood review board, or the neighborhood association, I'm sorry, and as well as anybody in the board of architectural review that can help us refine the exterior design so that it is more accommodating if that's what's necessary.
And maybe include the Preservation Society.
100%. I mean, yeah, I would more than, yeah, you should see some of the artifacts I've dug up in the yard. I mean, it's pretty incredible. That's all I'd like to say.
Are you, when you reference the house at Maple and Darlington, is that what you said?
Yes, ma'am.
Is it the blue one that was a ranch that was taken down? So that was a new build, or are you
No,
talking
no,
about?
This probably would have been done in the mid-90s, I would think. And now that I think about it, I could have probably included that as an example in my application, but It's a light colored robin's egg blue with white trim, diamond pattern on the upper windows. It's got a red tin roof. I mean, it and its garage, its attached garage, pretty much take up the whole corner lot there. But it's just what I would call it an airplane bungalow style that they added on later to a house that was approximately the same size as ours.
Okay.
Yeah, and so we were trying to stay and, like I said, use that contextually to model what we were doing after it, so that it would fit in with the neighborhood.
Okay, thank you.
Before Mr. Godfrey steps down, Robert, what would it be if he withdrew versus us taking an action on this?
So if for some reason he were to withdraw it or to defer it to allow for some other conversation, then there's nothing. If you were to have a denial action, that would preclude him from being able to move forward with this request in his current configuration for 6 months, and then he could come back. Given that the way the placement is, I don't imagine there's a lot of room there to move around, so we would probably be looking at a 6-month delay. But further, I would just say that based on what I heard, it sounds like he's amenable to taking this to BAR. They would be the board where we would, we want them to be weighing in on the architectural piece. And given that basically your action tonight would create the box that they could move so that they can move forward, then he could work with the BAR, and in that time he could also, Wagner Terrace definitely gets much more involved at BAR stuff, I would say. I'd be willing to go out on a limb and say that they attend more of those meetings than they do necessarily BZA-Z meetings. And clearly the Preservation Society and HCF both are very active when things come before the Board of Architectural Review. This would go before the Board of Architectural Review small because it's a single family home, but still a lot of participation at that point in the process. And that would have another hearing before their board to review the proposed elevations and provide additional feedback and or maybe even requirements, if you would, on anything related to the removal of the historic materials. And again, if you were to condition it as such, then they would review the new architecture as well.
Any other questions for Mr. Godfrey? Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we go on to board discussion.
I'm
I'm-
sorry,
Go ahead.
in that conditioning process, would you also be able to, or would you put in a condition to meet with the neighborhood association, to meet with the historic
I'm wondering,
Charleston, to
these,
meet with the Preservation Society, that all of that comes into the condition?
I would like to not burden this gentleman any more than we have to. And that reason I'd move that we approve it subject to BAR approval. The Wagner Terrace Neighborhood Association, however they're run, has never come in here. And we've had several like this in the last several years. They've never come in here and said, this is how we want the rules to apply, or we would ask people, owners, to comply voluntarily with this or that kind of architectural approach to additions. And there are a lot of them in Wagner Terrace. And I think that's their deficit, their problem, not the homeowner's problem. And for that reason, I would move approval subject to approval by BAR. Some feel said that anybody interested is going to be at the BAR meeting anyway.
So your if approved condition would be, or your motion condition would be approval with architectural review by BAR. Full architectural review by BAR.
I guess architectural review means,
Well, whatever BAR's purview would be, it would be what their
yeah.
would be subject to.
So do we have to vote first and then discuss, or can we?
We
do
can
the
have more discussion
No.
before we hear a second.
Yeah.
I think that's
Um,
reasonable.
Wagner Terrace does submit letters to us, I feel like pretty regularly, whether they support applications or not. But the only concern I have about just sending it to BAR is the mass of the structure. I mean, it is comparatively to the houses near it, it just dwarfs those houses. I mean, if that's the right word I'm saying. But I just feel like it is very intense, and my only concern is I do agree that we should send it to BAR 100%, but I'm concerned about sending it at that, approving it at that size or.
Do you think that the footprint is gonna materially change though? If, you know, if what we're considering here is the impact on the setback. And I realize, you know, height is part of that consideration, but
Mhm.
how, you know, how might that. If we, you know, if we are not on board with that setback impact, then how do you move forward?
Well, just, I'll answer that question, but I'm concerned because he's asking for 1.4 versus 9. And then 13, you know, 0.11 versus 18. So to me, we're approving those setbacks for a much larger addition. I like the idea of his deferring it and going and talking to the neighborhood association and maybe considering reducing the size of it so that it has less of an impact.
And with kind of where Ally was going too, you know, if this thing wants to move into that rear setback, if we approve it like this, they go to BAR. BAR doesn't like the height, but wants it to be more horizontal, then they're going to have to come back here to ask us for a rear setback. So if we defer now, he can meet with BAR, he can meet with the people having an interest in the project, and then come back and make a request based on those conversations.
There is a motion on the floor.
I withdraw the motion because I agree with Mr. McKay.
All right, motion is withdrawn. Is there a new motion or further discussion?
I would make a motion to defer the application.
Ms. Grass makes a motion to defer the application. Is there a second? Seconded by Ms. Richards. All those, further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None are opposed. The motion for deferral passes. The special exception is deferred for 3 St. Margaret Street unanimously.
And Mr. Godfrey, my staff will be in contact with you with some contact information for the Wagner Terrace Association. As well as, hopefully you have Anna Catherine's information, just so that you can have some conversations with them before we bring this back.
Mr. Summerfield, I'd appreciate it if you would tell Wagner Terrace, keep an eye out for the public notices and do their jobs, so we don't have to send homeowners back with messages from us. Please pay attention to what's going on in your neighborhood.
As your secretary, sir, I will make clear to our contact at Wagner Terrace that that Mr. Morrison of the BZA-Z.
You can say it just that way, or if you give me a number, I'll call.
Would very much like you to get on your job.
Thank you.
And Mr. Godfrey could bring this back as quickly as he would like.
Yes, this is a deferred item, so this could be on this does not have to be renoticed unless there is an exacerbation of the current request. So if it went back a little further within the current setbacks, that would not be a problem. It would only be a problem if we crossed that line, or if in order to keep it down, we went more west, right?
My house is not it doesn't conform either.
I'm sorry.
My existing house doesn't conform to that same.
Oh, I know. I'm just saying that if you brought it down and you needed to go more west than the current thing is, then we'd have to adjust and we may need to renotice at that point. But yes, at this point, he can come back at any meeting that he's prepared to update you all on his conversations.
Mr. Godfrey. All right, the next item on the agenda is B 37 Lavington Road, West Ashley, Council District 7. TMS number 353-10-00-00-062, zone SR1. Request a variance from section 54-301 to build an 8-foot high fence, 6 feet allowed. Owner applicant Luciano and Brittany Scorano. Mr. Summerfield.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, so this property is at Ashley Hall and Livingston Road. You can see it here on the corner. It shares a property line with the property at one. Dang it, you cursed me. Abani Lane. As you can see here in this in the zoning map. You can also see here in the aerial, this is the side yard for the subject property. You can also see how close that is to that side yard. Again, thinking that that's the area where the children would play, how close that is to the upper story windows on that side of the house at one Habani Lane, as well as their backyard. We did redact some identifying information here, but hopefully the board members have read the rationale for the requests. It is a variance, not a special exception, but still there. You can see here their existing site survey where they are proposing to put up the fence. So that yard is available for their children to be able to play. Again, you can see the photo, you can see the upstairs windows that have looked into this area as well as that backyard. They have applied for an encroachment permit because there is a drainage easement on the property. This is a unusual situation where I think the hardship is not a topographical topographical issue. It is it just is an issue.
Safety.
I'm sorry.
Safety.
It's a safety, it's just a feeling of comfort in your own, being able to use your property for your own quiet enjoyment. So again, while normally staff would not recommend for a variance for a fence height increase, given the details of this particular request, and having done some investigation into that situation, staff feels that there is a unique hardship here, and so is recommending approval of this variance. With an if approved condition that the encroachment permit from the city engineering department must be received prior to fence construction.
Mr. Summerfield, just to be clear, are we referring to the entirety of the fence or only on the adjacent neighbor property lines?
It would be the entire fence as depicted in the diagram. You wouldn't want the fence to like do a jog like 8 feet over here and then drop down. That wouldn't look right. So it would be what you are being asked to approve would be an 8-foot fence for the entirety of the block there that you see the request for the fence. So they would not be able to use this variance to say suddenly put up an 8-foot fence over on Ashley Hall Road or otherwise. This variance would be to approve the fence in the configuration as identified in this site plan.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Summerfield. Is there anyone here in opposition to the variance at 7 Lamington Road? Just a show of hands. Is the owner or applicant here?
Yes.
Do you wish to have anything you'd like to add to the application?
Sure, if I might.
Yeah, please come on forward and state your name
Sure.
and address for the record, please.
Name is Luciano Scorano. My wife Brittany and I own a house at 7 Lamington and Charleston, West Ashley. And appreciate the motion for approval. Just to add a further clarification, this process has actually been very smooth. Contacts have been great and response time has been great. Direction being the first time we've had to proceed with this type of application has all been positive. So definitely want to make a note of that. Blake Timmerman has been very good to work with. We've actually gone back and forth with some structural details for the fence post mountings. So we've coordinated that with him specifically because of the fence height to comply with the wind load requirement. So I just wanted to note that we have coordinated that with them and certainly will require that on the fence contractor to comply with that as well.
Great.
But that's all I really wanted to add. So,
Thank you, Mr. Sperano.
thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. Close the public hearing portion. Is there anyone else here, I'm sorry, anybody else who wishes to speak in support of the application? Or a motion?
I have a question, going back to your question. Did several of these items that have come before us, we would approve the height along the area of concern? Did y'all consider that at all? Like maybe 8 feet and then leaving the 6 feet along the areas that were
Again,
not a problem?
if the request was for the whole property, I think we would have gotten into this, but trying to create a kind of a safety box where the children would be playing,
Mhm.
given that it's, all of this is on that neighboring side. We thought that the request, again, at staff, when we discussed this, we thought the request was reasonable.
Thank you.
But yeah, we probably would have gotten a little bit more precise if the request was to fence the whole yard. We would have required them to essentially step it down, almost essentially in the kind of the areas where they're at right now.
Okay.
Further discussion?
Move approval.
Mr. Morrison moves approval. Do I have a second?
I'll give you a second.
Second by Mr. McKay. Any further discussion?
As conditioned,
That's a great question. Mr. Morrison, do you have a condition on that motion?
we have an if approved condition that we're
Uh,
recommending. We just want to make sure
yep.
that that's. part of
Just
this.
clarifying if your approval, your motion for approval would include the requirement that the encroachment permit be received prior to the fence construction.
Oh, yeah, I just assumed he was locked into that. Yes, that's a good condition.
Condition. Further discussion. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None are opposed. The motion for approval passes. The requested variance is granted with the condition as stated. Get that on the permit. Thank you very much. Great. The next item on the agenda is B4, 0 Braswell Street, Silver Hill, Magnolia, Council District 4, TMS number 466-00-00-032, zoned PUD. Request variance from section 54-411 to allow a temporary sign with a height of 28 feet 6 inches and total sign area of 2,736 square feet, 8 feet and 64 square feet allowed. The owner is Charleston Coppers FTA Park LLC. Applicant is HR Charleston LLC. Mr. Summerfield.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I apologize, Mr. Chairman, in order to save the city some money on advertising, we drop any extra commas. So that it does look a little funny there without the comma. All right, so you can see that the property in question is here. This is at what ostensibly would be the entry point for the new Magnolia development that is occurring in this part of the upper peninsula area on the Ashley River side of the peninsula. We can again see that this is a large, presently empty parcel. Does front to King Street and to I-26, elevated portion of I-26, which is an important component to the proposed request. You can see that the proposed sign would be essentially kind of centered in that parcel. So this is not at the edge of the parcel in any way. All of this contributes to why the requested temporary sign is of the size and square footage that it is. It's also using kind of a what's the word I want to use here? Kind of a look back to the kind of industrial and shipping water kind of economy that used to be at this site by using the shipping containers as its material. But then obviously dressing it up nice because Magnolia Landing, when it's completed, will be an extremely important addition to the city and to the peninsula in particular. So this would be the proposed temporary sign. Again, I can't say temporary enough because it will be temporary, very temporary. It's just there while they're moving through their process, but because they will be doing, they are aggressively working through our TRC process and our permitting process. In fact, I think we have a sketch plan Wednesday, which is kind of our pre-application process for their first office building. We've just recently done one for the food and beverage buildings that'll be out at the waterfront where the new park is going to be. So this is a project that is one of many that's full steam ahead. You can see how they will be attaching the container to the ground here with the footings and the bindings that they're going to request. This is kind of a unique situation, so we don't have relevant case history related to this request. This is a variance because we just don't, our code doesn't really address anything consistent with this, and it wasn't addressed in their PUD, so it defaults back to the zoning code. Again, a unique situation where staff is recommending approval of this variance just because it is a very different situation. Further, we have commitment from the applicant that their intention is that this is very temporary. And so following along with that, staff has two recommended, if approved, conditions to go along with our recommendation for approval. One is that the sign placement is limited to 2 years from permit or December 31st of 2027, whichever comes first. And then after December 31st, 2027, this variance would be void, and all future development shall be in conformance to the applicable zoning regulations unless relief is granted by the Board of Zoning Appeals or staff as may be provided by code. So it's very clear that this variance is time limited and that the sign is only eligible to be there for up to 2 years. We've heard from them that they only anticipate 9 months to a year of having this before they would replace it with something more permanent as activities go. However, having doing this work for quite a while, we know things can happen, and so we've given a little bit of grace period in there, given that most requests for entitlements have a 2-year window. We thought a 2-year window here seemed an appropriate time limit for them to have the sign up and then and remove it. And then wanted to be clear that once the sign is removed, you don't get the 3-year reestablishment clock that you would normally get when you granted a variance and one activity stops and a new activity coming. So with that, staff is recommending approval subject to these if approved conditions.
Thank you, Mr. Summerfield. That's helpful. I wonder if there may be some tweaking to the language of conditions, but we can get to that
Absolutely is.
later. Just for clarity, that's all.
Yeah.
Is there anyone here in opposition to the variance at 0 Braswell Street? I'm not seeing any hands. Is the owner or applicant here? Do they wish to? Yep. Would you come on forward, please?
Yes,
State your name
Stuart
for the
Coleman, I'm here.
Can you use the microphone? Sorry.
I thought I saw Stuart.
All right, Stuart Coleman, I'm here to answer any questions, but don't have anything.
Okay.
further to add.
Thank you, Mr. Coleman.
And you're in agreement with the conditions?
Yes.
Questions or comments? I would only point out the sunset, the 2-year doesn't align with the December 31st, 2027.
Correct. So it'd be 2 years if they get the permit in the next 2 months. And it'd be December 31st if they get it anytime thereafter. So they would have the sign for 2 years. So if somehow they were to able to get this up in the next
I see your,
sometime between now and December 31st of this year, then they'd have 2 years from that date. But if not, then they have 2 years from December 31st. So they get it up in February, they have a year and,
it may be similar to
10
your
months.
point, Mr. Morrison, just to have a hard date.
Hey, seems to me, then you
Okay, we can do that.
doesn't have to worry about when permitting happened and all of that and start counting.
All right, so sign placement is limited to December 31st, 2027. And then after December 31st, 2027, the variance is void. That would be your motion?
I'll
Well,
make that
I don't know.
motion. I'll make that
You're
motion.
gonna make that motion, Mr. McKay? Okay, so your motion is for approval with the conditions as modified, that first, the sign placement is limited to just not no later than December 31st, 2027. And secondly, that after December 31st, 2027, the variance is void and all future development shall be in conformance to applicable zoning regulations unless relief is granted by the Board of Zoning Appeals or staff as may be provided by code.
Exactly.
Thank you, Mr. McKay. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Morrison. Any further discussion? Is there, y'all ready for the vote? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None are opposed. The requested variance is granted 6-0. Thank you, with conditions. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Federfield. All right. The next item on the agenda, B5, 101 Hanover Street, East Side Neighborhood. Council District 4, TMS number 459-05-01-079, zoned DR2. Request variance from section 54-301 to build an accessory building that exceeds lot coverage. 41% proposed, 35% allowed. Owner, applicant Kelly Yoder and Nikita Ellen. Mr. Summerfield.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, you can see that this is a property on Hanover Street here just north of Lee Street. You can see on the zoning map, the footprint of the building, I mean, is pretty much the lot. As you can see in the aerial, it looks a little bit less massive on the lot, but still pretty substantial on this lot. There was another aerial there. The request would be to place a accessory structure in the rear of the lot. You can see here pictures of really how much space is there. Our understanding is this is to create just some additional storage. And while we acknowledge that we all need a place to store our, Christmas ornaments and our yard things, this is a site that's already kind of built out to its lot coverage, and for just in the addition of an accessory structure, staff could not find for the hardship. Again, this is an area back on the aerials. We will acknowledge that lot coverage, is very mixed in this block and in this area. You have properties like their neighbor to the north, and actually multiple neighbors to the north, which, seem to, again, just on a bird's eye view, have pretty significant lot coverage. This is a lot coverage that was imposed on these lots well after these were initially developed. That said, I believe this is a new build. So it's, the lot coverage existed when this house was either newly built or significantly altered. I can't remember directly which one it was. So again, for that reason, while we acknowledge that there are some conditions in the neighborhood about lot coverage, we just couldn't get to hardship for this one. So staff is recommending denial.
Okay. City's recommendation is denial. Is the owner or an applicant here? Yes, would you come on forward, please, and state your name for the record and your address?
Hi, my name is Kelly Yoder. My husband Nikita is also here. We're the owners of 101 Hanover. well, yeah, so we acknowledge the topographical hardship maybe isn't there. It is a new build and the design was not there. The storage space in our home is just, there is absolutely no room for tools, seasonal Christmas ornaments, basic household storage, and we're currently forced to rent a storage unit that we need to drive to in order to get basic tools when we're working on things around the house or mowing our lawn. And our proposed structure is going to be modest, and at the other aerial views, you could see homeowners in our lot or street that do take up a lot of the lot. Actually, there's a new build going up next door to the, I'm not sure, I guess it would be the east side. Yes, and it's covering even more than our current home is. So we were just asking for 7.5%. I think we currently are at like 33%, and just a modest like 14-foot by 17-foot storage accessory building, not increasing the living space or the footprint of the current home. So that's all I have to say. And if there are any questions.
Questions from the board? Thank you, Ms. Yoder. Anyone else here who is in support of the application at 101 Hanover Street? Any opposition? I believe, obviously from the city. Not seeing any. Okay. For discussion.
What is the lot coverage now? Sorry, I know you said, but
They're at 33.2.
if it were smaller,
So they have, I mean, they have about 2%, 3%, 2.5% of lot area to work with. So,
Just under 3,000 square feet for the lot.
yeah, so they would
Square
be,
feet of,
so what they're proposing is a 224 square foot storage structure. So to get that down to be enough, I'm really bad at math. That's why I became a planner and not an engineer.
very good at math.
I think it was like when I did, I'm sorry to interrupt, I think it was like 120 square feet or something. It was very small.
2%.
Yeah.
That's helpful.
Just over 100 square.
Yeah, it basically, it would be a much smaller accessory structure in order for them to do it within the 35% lot coverage.
Yeah.
And I will acknowledge as well, as you saw in the aerial, and I think this was a conversation that this board had on the lot adjacent to it. You know, these lots are not as deep as most of the other lots on the block. And so it does mean that they have a smaller lot area to work with. And then 35% is kind of our lowest lot coverage designation that we have. And so that again can be a compounding issue for the property in terms of at this point, it's essentially built out and it is set back from the street, which then also makes it difficult to do anything else in terms of an accessory.
So you're talking yourself into a regular.
And not just, staff could not get to the hardship, but staff also feels like we have to be acknowledging the site constraints and everything else so that this board, which has a little bit more deliberative authority than staff, can make the decision that they feel is appropriate.
It would approve a variance only for that 1-story level for the utility building. If they ever wanted to do more, they'd have to come back to get a
Correct.
continuation of the existing.
You limited to 11 feet deep height.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
it's under 54 square feet would be the max permissible and still under that 35%.
but I guess they still have an option to have a smaller storage space.
They could
I mean,
They could
that's still
defer,
functional.
come back with something a little bit smaller.
Mhm.
That's 224 feet square foot proposal.
I don't
get
know.
38% or something, and compared to all their neighbors, it would be more sympathetic, and it may meet the basic requirements. I'm a little bit sympathetic because of the way that the rest of the neighborhood looks and configuration of this house being set back and all the rest of it. And the lot size that was pointed out.
Yeah, Summerfield, out of curiosity, if it were relocated on a lot further back into the corner, is there any requirement to review the setback, or would that be an, where am I going with this? If it were deferred and restudied and they wound up relocating it into the corner, how close could they get to the corner of the property? Or would that be an intensification of the application and then they'd have to basically start over?
If they, so this is an accessory structure, so they could go to 3
3
feet
feet.
from the rear.
So they have some room to kind of move it around and it's.
Yeah, as long as, again, they still have to make sure that they're meeting the height limit, although that shouldn't be a problem because this is a 2-story elevated home, so I think we're gonna be more than fine. I suppose they could do, I mean,
That wouldn't require a new application.
No,
That's
no,
all
no,
I'm
no.
asking.
no, yeah, though this is a lot coverage question, so as long as they don't propose something that would create any kind of other variance or what have you, and do not increase the lot coverage beyond 41%, a deferral to restudy this would be fine, and they would be able to come back at the next meeting after they had an opportunity to look at it and see.
Ms.
You have a
Yoder,
scientific calculator on you, so that's the difference between us.
Ms. Yoder, I'm curious, have y'all given consideration to the scale of or actual square footage for your accessory building to make sure you're accommodating your needs? And have y'all considered possibly, would you be opposed to considering a downsize and rescaling slightly to make it perhaps more favorable application? Or are y'all pretty
So based on
settled?
our research,
I'm sorry,
Yeah,
I'm
if
sorry,
you-
can you come up
sorry,
to the
can you
mic?
Come up and answer the
Thank
question.
you, sorry,
And
this
we're
meeting is
really-
being recorded,
Yes,
so.
we're really going with this.
Nikita
Is there y'all-
Nikita from 101 Hanover.
Thank you.
So based on our research, the building is already considered basically a shed, and the proposal to move it back, we are the way the current design is drawn, we are already adhering to the maximum setbacks. So if we are to move it closer to the back of the lot, we would have to request another variance of the setback.
We're not recommending that.
Yeah,
It's just
It was merely a question.
Yeah.
What I'm asking is, y'all are asking for 224 square feet. Is there, is that a hard and fast number that you absolutely need, or is that just something that y'all put together based on rough dimensions that you feel is appropriate for what you want? I'm just sort of curious how tight.
Yeah. So no, we like I said, researched like different sizes of sheds and garages, and based on the equipment and tools that we need in order to keep the yard maintained, like there's lawn mowers and edgers and like my wife mentioned, Christmas decorations and whatnot for the house. That was the appropriate size building that our research showed.
Okay.
Relatively speaking, 2,400 square foot shed is a modest shed and not even near a garage or a large size shed that you can purchase prefab from Costco or any big box store.
So did you say it is one? I'm sorry. Well, did you say it is one that you would purchase already?
No, we would. I'm just saying, based on our research of what you can purchase, this is actually smaller than when you would buy something prefab.
But it's something that y'all are gonna build yourself.
Correct, that's the plan.
You're saying you can't even buy one this small? Is that what you're saying?
You can, but usually for the most part, yeah, they're bigger. You can probably, but most of them, for what the size that we need is, yeah, they're usually larger.
Okay.
If you look at the prefab.
For your storage needs.
Correct. No,
You said there's new construction going on next door.
correct. So the lot, I believe to the east side, it's showed as cleared, but there's a building that's probably about
80, I don't know, it's taken up pretty much the whole lot, and as it was mentioned, our house is set back from the front street, which this house is not, and it's taken up, and it's extended further than our house currently is on the backside. So, and then pretty much every other residence, as you guys have seen in the depictions, is taken up 80 to 90% of the lot coverage.
Got it.
We're adhering to them.
Robert, are you familiar with that?
Yeah, this
Project.
board has seen it. They came through for, I believe it was a lot coverage and maybe even a setback variance for that because of just the lot size.
So do we remember what the lot coverage is going to be on that?
We do not.
But they were granted a variance for lot coverage?
Yes. I believe so. I want to say yes.
And Mr. Huey, I think too, you can look at the aerial and pretty well see lot coverages typically exceed what I think they might be asking for here. Thank you. Any other further questions? No. Okay. Thank you. Any further discussion? We'll address the hardship aspect. We'll have to take a shot at it.
Sounds like we got to it next door, right? It sounds like we got to hardship next door and it looks like a very similar lot to me.
I would like to see the footprint of the next door building. In order to gauge the consideration of this request.
I believe if you look at the pictures that were submitted, you can see the neighboring structure and the size of the sheer size of it. It's on the left.
On the left in this
Yeah.
photo,
As you can see, it's extended
similar
closer to the
scale.
street and it's extended way past our house in the back.
So,
What's that, 99 Hanover?
Yes, it is.
Right.
Mr. Summerfield, do you think that next door new structure is also a 35%?
No, it's not. I'm pretty sure that one came through for a lot of insufficient size and lot coverage and maybe a setback variance a while back. I can't remember exactly. I would have to go and get GIS up and do some more research on that particular parcel. But I do not believe that one meets lot coverage either.
It'd be hard for me to see the fairness in giving the next door house. You know, if it's got 40% coverage or more than that. Tell these folks they can't have
So
35.
Mr. Chairman, because I have an amazing staff,
Yes,
they've been able to pull this up. So 99 Hanover came before this board back in. Sorry. Back in December of 24, so not quite a year ago. And they did get, they had a request for 47.5% lot coverage and an elevated HVAC encroachment. The lot coverage was granted and the HVAC system was denied and they had to relocate that. So the board just a year ago on the neighboring property did grant a lot coverage for the home, not an accessory structure, but for the home to have a lot coverage of 57.5%.
47.
I'm sorry, 47. I don't know what I said, but 47.5%.
And they're asking for 41 here.
This would bring with this new structure, this would bring this site up to 40, that's just under 41%.
Prepared to make a motion, Mr. Huey?
Well, would this be anything that the board would want be hard to look at? I mean, just
BAR would, are the,
Because it's accessory.
it's accessory and it'd be completely behind, and because of the size of these structures, I don't believe it would be seen from the right of way, so it would not be something BAR would be looking towards.
And there was a height limitation already.
Yes, it has a height limitation already as a, and it's as an accessory structure.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the hardship is found next door, very similar lot. I don't think they're asking for anything egregious. I think a 225 square foot ADU is not
Not ADU, accessory structure.
accessory structure. Sorry.
Let's not go granting more. Let's not go granting more than we can.
Mr. Huey, you prepared to make a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion for approval.
Mr. Huey makes a motion for approval. Do I have a second?
I'll say.
Second by Mr. McKay. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None are opposed. The vote for approval is unanimous. The requested variance is granted. Thank you very much. Right, the next item on the agenda, B6, 363 West Confederate Circle, South Windermere, Council District 11. TMS number 421-13-00-072, zoned SR1. Request variance from section 54-301 to build an accessory building with a 3-foot east side setback. 9 feet are required. Owner Corey and Eva Bradley, applicant MHK Architecture, Michael Atkinson. Mr. Summerfield.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, so you can see this is a corner lot here at Confederate Circle and William Ackerman Lane. Here you can see the aerial, and from the aerial, you can also kind of see how this house is positioned on the lot. Additionally, they have vehicular access off of William Ackerman, but the front of the house is on Confederate Circle. What you didn't see necessarily, or wasn't clear because of the time of the year and just the foliage there, they do have 2 trees that impact the site. Weirdly enough, neither are on the site, I don't believe, but their canopies do come very much into the site, and you can see here. So what they're proposing to do is add what they're calling an artist studio. It would be an accessory structure that they would be putting in the kind of rear area on the east setback, right? The east, right? Yeah. I'm now gun shy on cardinal direction. And so you can kind of see the floor plan here for the proposed structure. The way they've situated it, it will create what I think will be a nice little courtyard with the existing home. It is a relatively small structure. It's important to note on this one, and one of the reasons why I think we've got some grade changes going on here. So I think that part of why this one is going in the location where it is. Also, again, while you do have some yard area over here, you also have some tree impacts. And we of course wouldn't allow it in the front of the house. And to come up off of these stairs and what have you here does create some placement issues. And then you can see again on the aerial here, they have an existing or have had an existing shed in that space. And this kind of backs up to that wetlands area and that area of the neighbor's yard.
So the shed is roughly where it's proposed to go.
I think it's going to be kind of more here. So the shed is actually closer, maybe closer. This perspective is a little bit off, but based on what has been provided, the new thing would go kind of right in that same area. I'll let the applicants be able to speak a little more specifically, but it's essentially right behind this edge of the house, sort of essentially where that shed is at, yeah. And then they do have support from uh, neighboring property at 367. So we have back here minimal impact because of no neighbor back here. The immediately impacted neighbor right here is on board. Again, an accessory structure in the rear part of the yard is not unusual in this neighborhood. They do have kind of an oddly shaped rear yard because of the encroachment of the wetlands onto the property. It does create this kind of odd shape for the lot. Additionally, you have the sloping, which makes, again, buildable area back there more difficult. For all of those reasons, staff is recommending approval, if we get to it, recommending approval of the requested variance.
Thank you, Mr. Summerfield. All right, city's recommendation is for approval. Is there anyone here in opposition to the variance at 363 West Confederate Circle? Just by a show of hands, not seeing any. Is the owner applicant here, wishes to speak? Yes, please come on up. State your name for the record, please. Name and address.
Michael Atkinson, I'm from MHK Architecture, representing Ava Bradley. I'm in the city down. I just wanted to clarify to locate the existing structure. If you go to the site plan and if you zoom in, you can see the existing structure is kind of tucked into the right back corner of the new accessory structure.
So the shed's coming out.
The shed's coming out, yes. So the Bradleys just purchased the house, and they just recently moved here. They've remodeled, and now they just want to remodel the courtyard to create a level. So it drops about 2 feet, which is just not conducive for a courtyard. So we're raising the grade in the courtyard, and this is an AE9 zone. So we have to, we're at 11 feet for a finished floor or subfloor. So with the exception to get into a close to 3 foot setback, we're limited to our eve height. So with the additional footage that we need to have for the DOB, we meet the eve height on the front side, but where it slopes down to create positive drainage on the side yard, we're asking for the variance for that.
Thank you, Mr. Atkinson. Any questions for?
I do. The neighbor at 367, did you address their concerns about the sloping and the water running onto their?
Yes, it's in the landscape plan. We have a swale, and we follow the grade on the side yard to natural grade. And then for the runoff from the roof, we're capturing the gutter. We have a downspout at the top right corner that then is going into a river rock sort of spillway, and that's diverting it. And when we've talked to the neighbor about we can adjust the length of the river rock, or we can if she's not comfortable when it goes into construction, we've got some options to make it better. But we addressed her concern, and then she signed off.
Okay, thank you.
And Mr. Chairman, I apologize. I do want to make it clear, the reason this is before the board, because this would otherwise be approvable as an exception by staff for the encroachment into the setback at 3 feet. But because of the eve height, you can't use the exception. So that's why they're here because the eve height, while allowable, doesn't allow you to use the exception for the encroachment into the setback. So that's why it's here. So otherwise, this would be, if it weren't for the way that as was mentioned by the applicant, the way the height and the way they positioned the eve, essentially, this would be a staff level approval. But because of the kind of uniqueness of the topography there and the raising of the building, and then creating this slope here so that they can do their runoff the way they are addressing it, that bumped it into a setback variance.
Mr. Summerfield, is that eve height measured on the adjacent, on the east side adjacent to the neighbor, or is that at the peak on on the interior side. How is that eve height established?
I believe it's the highest,
Spot,
I believe it's the highest.
the highest point.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's not necessarily the eve, but it might be because of the slope.
It might be because of the slope and the grade differential that still may be in play, but usually those measurements are from the lowest to the highest.
Any other questions for Mr. Atkinson? No, thank you. Anyone else who wishes to speak in support of 363 West Confederate Circle? Any more discussion?
Move for approval.
Move for approval by Ms. Grass. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Huey. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None are opposed. The motion for approval passes. The requested variance is granted. Thank you very much. All right, the next item is B7. I am recused on this item. Ms. Grass will chair in my place.
You want the gavel? You want to gavel
wanna-
about that?
Have a calculator if you need it too.
Okay, so the next item is B7, 3 Daniel Street, Unit 4, Burnstown. Council District 11, TMS number 421-01-00-210, zoned LB. The request is for use variance from section 54-203 for tattooing services. The owner is Dr. Chin and the applicant is Amy Ergus. Mr. Sommerfeld.
Madam Chairwoman, members of the board, so this is a property that's in the Avondale area of Savannah Highway. This is tucked into a little limited business parcel here, kind of off of Savannah Highway here on Daniel Street, where we go into the Burnstown neighborhood. You can see it here on the aerial. It's kind of, it is its own building, but it's really right up against the building here that has its well, I want to say frontage on Savannah Highway, but I think obviously most people use the Daniel Street side for that one. You can see this is a 2-story building. There is a single-family residential home immediately behind it there. The applicant has laid out why their use of the building would be appropriate for a tattoo service. This is a relatively small space. It is on the 2nd floor, so this is not on the 1st floor. It is intended to be, as I understand it, single artist, single client, customer visiting to have their service done. The artist provided some of their work. There's a petition here. There's as well in your comment packet, there's one submitted online opposition to the request. This is for the neighboring property there at 7 Daniel Street. You did receive a number of comments and letters and petitions in support. We did look at some of the addresses. They do range from people far and wide, but also a number of those that signed are folks from the Burnstown area and the Avondale neighborhood who were also in support of this use here. So I need to go into a little explanation on the staff recommendation for denial here, and then I want to offer some, if approved, conditions that, based on what we heard as opposition, we think if it were approved, that these would help address some of those concerns. So the state legislature changed, or the state regulating body for tattooing changed some of the rules around distance separations for tattoo services at a state level. They changed those some years ago, and other jurisdictions were based off the state rules. So when those state rules and regulations changed, those locality rules changed as well. Some took an active approach and made changes. Many did not, and it just happened to follow. In the city of Charleston, though, the question was raised, as I understand it, having spoken with the previous zoning administrator, the question was raised and it was not something the city council wanted to take up. As a result, it maintained the limitation on tattoo services, which are a line item in our use table as tattoo services. Left that in a very limited, essentially, industrial type zoning category. And for that reason, staff has recommended denial of this. I will say as your planning director and as someone working on the zoning rewrite, tattooing as an industry has changed significantly, I think, since tattooing services were introduced and itemized in our, again, I'm gonna get a little technical here, Euclidean zoning, which is meant to separate uses from residences. And I think historically tattooing has been seen in a particular light and not something that you necessarily want to have next door. Like I said, I think there has been significant change within the industry in terms of who gets tattoos. Grandmas get tattoos. Moms get tattoos to celebrate their new babies. It's not, sailors coming off the ship on leave after they've been out to the bar, which is kind of that classic, I think, thing that is often right. So this would be one of those things that we will be discussing as a community during the zoning rewrite. However, as of now, council apparently, when the regulations changed at the state level, there was a conscious decision not to change the zoning regulations as it relates to tattooing services in the city of Charleston. For that reason, staff is recommending denial. We are offering 3, if approved, conditions. Like I said, I believe these will help address some of the comments that we did hear in opposition. And I believe they are in line with the model that the applicant is proposing. And so should safeguard the neighboring property, as well as not be a detriment to the proposed operation if it were to be approved. So our first condition would be that there be no signage or lighting in the southward facing windows. Those would be the windows on the upper story that would face towards the residential. So it wouldn't make sense for any advertising signage, but we're saying no signing or additional lighting. So, no, again, not that we're anticipating it, but no neon signs, no anything in those windows that might prove intrusive on the neighbor. The operation shall be by appointment only. Again, this is a small studio space. We would anticipate that this is not a hardship on the applicant. It does not sound from what they've submitted to us that this is a kind of a walk-in setup anyway. So again, we feel that this limits, again, some of the concerns of the neighborhood about just people just showing up, waiting to see the artist, and potentially creating some neighborhood noise and nuisance. And then finally, we want to be clear that this is LB zoned. So because it's a use variance, it has some weird interplay with the LB. And so we would just make it very clear as our third condition that if approved, that it adhere to 54204B regarding the restricted hours of operation on LB property, which means that they do not open for any services before 7 a.m. and that they are closed no later than 11 p.m. That's the standard for LB. Of course, this board, if they were to consider this item, could further restrict those hours less than that if that was an item of concern for the board in their consideration of the request.
Thank you. Okay, so the city recommends denial. Is there anyone else here in opposition? I know we have the one letter from 7 Daniel Street. Okay, but we'll hear from the applicant first, if you'd like to address the board. If you can just state your name and address, please.
Hi, everyone. My name is Amy Burgos. I'm here today to request a use variance for 3 Daniel Street for an individual suite at 3 Daniel Street. I know you've been able to review my information from my application, but I want to kind of use this time tonight to kind of go over the more in-depth details of why this spot specifically is uniquely suited for a quiet appointment only tattoo studio. So first off, this property is, and the reason why I'm requesting for this variance is that this specific unit in this specific building already meets the strict standards that are required by DHEC for licensing for a tattoo facility. Unlike most small commercial spaces, 3 Daniel Street already includes all the physical features needed for a compliant, safe studio. One of them being a defined workstation. The next one within that same space, you can see from the floor plan here, there is the necessary square footage for a separate designated sanitation area. And then off of that too, the separate waiting room divided by both of those things. It also has proper lighting, ventilation, non-porous floors and walls, and a restaurant that meets all the state requirements. These conditions are uncommon and would be extremely costly to replicate elsewhere, making this property an extraordinary fit for this use. Additionally, this parcel meets the state's requirement for the 1,000-foot distance rule from schools, playgrounds, or churches, which automatically disqualifies most of the potential locations that I've seen in the past. So together for all of these things, I believe that that is the forefront of some of the criteria. Because of these unique conditions, the zoning ordinance actually prevents this building from being used for what it's already physically and legally suited for. Within the limited business zoning, you have multi-chair salons, wellness, and body-related services that are approved outright. In this case, the ordinance prevents low-impact, state-compliant, community-supported use from operating in a building, which is perfectly suited for it. This creates an unnecessary hardship as the property's most compatible and responsible use is being restricted, not because of its design or impact, but solely due to outdated zoning language that doesn't reflect the reality of what a modern private tattoo studio can look like. This proposed studio would be by appointment only, as you've said, operating quietly and mindfully with no walk-in appointments, one client at a time during the standard business hours that the limited business already follows by. I've also worked with South State Bank, which is located in that kind of far backside of the property. And they've kind of granted me permission to use their overflow lot for parking for myself and my clients. So parking will not have to be a problem and won't be added to that Daniel Street, which I know can get kind of crowded. Over the past few weeks, I've received over 100 signatures and letters of support from residents and local businesses who believe that this studio fits Avondale's character. I believe that the proposal supports public good and intent of the district to encourage safe, responsible, locally owned small businesses that enriches the community. So to summarize, 3 Daniel Street is a one-of-a-kind property that already meets every state and local health safety. The spacing is required, it's there. The variance I'm requesting is simply allowing the space to be used in the way that it's naturally built for. This is a studio where I believe modern tattoo practices are ready for the change here in Charleston. Respectful of their surroundings, rooting community, and align with the city's vision for thoughtful growth. Thank you so much for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Does anyone have questions of the applicant?
I have one question. So the hours that were proposed, is that typically what you would be open till 11 o'clock at night?
All of those conditions I'm perfectly fine with. I'm in no way would be tattooing that late. I have a family, so sorry.
I mean, would you be amenable to different hours?
Absolutely.
Like if closing it, I don't know, what would be your typical?
I mean, I would say the latest 6 o'clock. I have a family I want to get home to. It's not gonna go anything later than that. So yeah, I'm very open to that. Thank you.
I have a question. You
Yeah.
mentioned the lack of available other spaces in the area. Could you expand on that a bit and your search for space, like in this, I don't know, direct vicinity, but also just to educate us on
Absolutely, yeah.
research?
So over the past 1.5 years, I've done a lot of research, talked to a lot of people, not only from zoning, but DHEC as well. So for tattoo facilities in the city of Charleston, there is a light industrial and a business park, which those are approved for.
So once you find something that's in that zone, what I'm trying to do is not open up a multi-artist studio. I'm looking for just one small space for one artist by appointment only. So to find that in a commercial spot is already difficult. That already has the floor plan, the set, waiting room, all of that set up. And then on top of that, 1,000-foot rule, playgrounds, schools, or churches. So in my opinion, finding a spot like this that is already fixed up, ready to go floor plan, in the 1,000-foot rule, it's already approved, it complies, is the needle in the haystack. Because of how limited we really are and restricted to where we can be.
I have one question too. In one of the letters, I think it was from the previous neighborhood association program, I'm not 100% sure on that, but I believe she or he mentioned that there would be 2 tattoo artists. Is that incorrect?
So the idea is to also have the community support and supporting local artists as well. So the space has a large hallway as you walk up. So putting like a gallery there to support the local artists, having their art in the space too, just to add to that support.
But would you be the only tattoo artist?
As of right now, yes, and that's kind of what I'm working for. Again, if there were to be an add-on for anyone else, it's hard to find someone in this realm of what I'm trying to do. So if somebody was to add on, it would still be the same thing, one client, one artist at a time, just splitting the space.
Okay. Thank you. Does anybody else have questions? Thank you. And now we'd like to hear from the opposition, please.
Other support.
Oh, I'm sorry. Are there any other supporters who want to speak? Oh, I'm so sorry. Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much. So I'm new to this, so
I apologize.
I'm complying as well. My name is Margaret Carnes. I'm in support of the 3 Daniel Street and my friend Amy. So I see those approved conditions and I just wonder where those came from because those kind of seem like a no-brainer. So I think just referencing back to the old school thoughts of what a tattoo studio is. No neon lights, no walk-ins, and working till 11, like she said. I know her personally and professionally. 11 p.m. no way. She's going to be back home with her family, and hopefully with me having dinner. So I myself have 5 tattoos, and I think that also speaks to the stereotype of the people that are getting tattoos these days. I work in healthcare, and I myself got my undergrad degree at Clemson in visual arts. So I think expressing ourselves creatively is very important and is a part of the Avondale character, like she said. And I just know, sorry, my voice is shaking because I'm just passionate. She has worked so hard and done all the research, done all the right things, talked to all the right people. She has the community support. So if it's by majority, then that would already be approved. But I want to support local businesses, women-owned businesses, and economic growth because I will be a customer as soon as it's open. So thank you for considering and letting us speak in this public setting.
Thank you. Can you please state your address?
I live at 331 Harbor Island Drive at the Clements Ferry North exit.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next, please.
Hi, my name is Laura Lieber. I live in West Ashley as well, but at 1934 Green Park Avenue. I am a local artist as well. I'm a muralist and scenic artist, and I have my own small business that I run. I know Amy both professionally and personally, and she is absolutely 100% correct in saying that this property is a needle in a haystack, especially for a small woman-owned single-person business, without her having to completely invest all of her savings into reworking a space that ultimately isn't hers to own. This is an incredible opportunity for her business to grow and also to build our artistic community here in Charleston. I won't, rehash and just continue to say the things that have been said, but I am a mom of two. I have been tattooed by Amy. I have a large tattoo on my shoulder. I have several tattoos. Most of my family has tattoos. It does not change how I feel about that our community has a stigma towards these type of businesses. The type of business that Amy runs is completely by appointment only and private, and it does not impact their neighbors in any way, shape, or form of where she would be. This is going to be a business that is going to not have any negative impact on the Avondale community, but further grow and increase the presence of the creatives and small business community within Charleston. And I think that this would be an incredible addition.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak in support of the application? I apologize about that. Now we'll hear any in opposition.
Oh, goodness. I'm Yvonne Gilreath and I live at 7 Daniel Street. I am on the, if you are looking at the aerial, I am actually the house right next door, and there's an alleyway that is between us. And the signs at the entrance to the neighborhood are right there where those businesses start. So I am the first house in the neighborhood. And when we know that it was built in 1945, and I have actually lived at the house, for 30 years. So I have seen a lot of businesses come and go. We've had everything from, in that particular building, we've had everything from real estate companies to, I think there's a massage therapist to, a goat cheese place. There have been all kinds of businesses on the first floor. On the second floor, that particular location, it's been used as a residence. I believe that it was used as a radio station. I think Dr. Chen has used it for storage. Again, on the second floor, I think there's a locksmith on one of the second floors. So that's some of the uses that have been there. And again, because I've been there so long, I do remember when the laws changed, and I should probably clarify that I have a master's in city planning, but I did transportation. So this is definitely not my area, but I did learn during that period of time. And there was, in my professional and personal opinion, a lot of discussion of where businesses were going to go. And I have no strong objection to tattoo businesses per se, but there's part of me that says it needs to be an equal playing field, because this is not the first, second, or even the third business that has wanted, tattoo business that has wanted to locate there. And they have not been able to do that. And I think, as I told the applicant, I think that they need to change it in whole and not allow one special person to come in there and have kind of a lock on the whole area, because she's been able to get some kind of, I hope I'm using the word, special exception to go in there. So I think that I do think it needs to be addressed citywide. It was addressed citywide, I thought, during that period of time. I'm pretty sure it was, because I remember attending some council meetings, but at the time I think it just needs to be addressed holistically and not just provide. I thought the hardship had to be for the property. I heard a lot of hardship about the business owner, but again, this is not the first or second or even third person that's wanted to move there. I think we just have to look at the city as a whole and start that process of opening up some eyes to some different kinds of businesses. But again, my concern as far as in that process of doing that, I am concerned about the 11 o'clock. That makes no sense to me. It doesn't sound like this particular person would do it, but however that is addressed, I thought limited business was 8 to 8, but I could have been wrong. So, but again, just philosophically, I think that we need to address the whole area, not for one person. And I think that that's my feeling on it. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here in opposition who'd like to speak?
I'm John Sheridan, and we have the engineering office right there at the corner of Savannah Highway and Daniel Street, with the catty corner roughly from this building in question. Now, we've been there since 1991. So that's 34 years. And just to give you some history, this same topic came up about 25 years ago. Someone wanted to open a tattoo parlor on Daniel Street. roughly across from this building. Now, I believe the owner of this property showed up in opposition to this proposed tattoo parlor 25 years ago. Okay. And I went before city council, and I remember Bob George was one of the council members and Joe Riley. And the permit was denied for this tattoo parlor by city council. And the zoning restrictions were tightened to prevent this from occurring again in the neighborhood. Now, as you know, there's set aside areas in zoning for tattoo parlors. If you Google tattoo parlors in Charleston, you can see there are 3 tattoo parlors up by 526 Exchange off of Savannah Highway. And there's others up further. Now, there are 2 elementary schools within a half a mile of this establishment, proposed establishment. And there are many young families just beyond Bonnie's house with little kids on tricycles, things like that. So this use is not within character of the neighborhood. And it is, these are the points that were made 25 years ago for this whole thing. And what is the idea? To provide convenient walking distance for your children to get tattoos? I mean, is that the idea? Or you can go elsewhere up the highway. So the question is, what is the hardship for the owner of this property? I've heard of this applicant, but that's not hardship for the owner. I believe the zoning requirements are to prove hardship for the owner, the applicant. Now, the owner isn't here to state his hardship. I don't recall any prominent for rent signs ever put up in front of this building. There's never been a call such and such phone number if you're interested in renting. So I don't know how all this transpired. Now, the extensive list of comments in favor of this application, I mean, as far as I can see, that's meaningless. I mean, these folks live in Latson, Monk's Corner, Mount Pleasant, Park West. I mean, there's no doubt that this young woman is a fine person, but that's really got nothing to do with it. The tattoo parlor specifically violates section 54-22 and Savannah Highway Overlay District, which specifically excludes tattooing services. And there are, like I said, there are already locations set aside for tattoo services elsewhere. Now, the variance tests, there are extraordinary and exceptional conditions pertaining to this particular piece of property. It's been rented before, it's rented now as far as I can see. So the owner is capable of renting. This isn't the only person that could rent it. It may be convenient for her with all these DHEC approved items, but that's not what the zoning variance test is about. And it says, because of these conditions, the application of the ordinance to the particular piece of property would effectively prohibit or unreasonably restrict utilization of this property. It doesn't. He is renting it, he went to a locksmith right now on the second floor. And the authorization of this variance will not be of substantial detriment to the adjacent property or the public good, and the character of the district will not be harmed by granting these variances. So in section 54-22 of the Savannah Highway Overlay Project, it says the use of the properties within the SH zone as offices for professional services, including accounting, financial, insurance, legal, design, engineering, some medical, dental, travel, real estate, and similar professional services, excluding tattoo services. It's clearly stated in the zoning. And like I said, no one is saying you can't get a tattoo in the city of Charleston. There are areas already set aside for it. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak in opposition of the application? Would the applicant like to speak in rebuttal?
I think I'm gonna try to kind of summarize that, make it quick, so you guys aren't waiting long enough. So first off, Bonnie and I have talked when I was canvassing the neighborhood. So she provides some great insight on some of the concerns that the neighbors would have there. One of which I already found a solution to, which was the parking situation. I agree about the signs, with my business having it be appointment only. I don't need signs for marketing. I don't need signs for advertising. So whatever the city is requiring me to have, that's what I'm going to do. And the business hours, we've already talked about that. When you're looking at the city of Charleston, there's only one tattoo facility that actually falls under the city of Charleston. The other tattoo facilities that are further down 17, those are with the county of Charleston. And that is another thing that you're dealing with when looking at these spots that are available. There's a sprinkle of everything everywhere. So again, this building, yes, to me, it's a needle in the haystack. I also want to address the fact that I am very dedicated to changing and updating the zoning, and I want to be an advocate for that too, because I do see where the change needs to happen. And that's why I'm asking for this use variance to look at it as a case-by-case individual situation. And what I'm trying to do again is a one person, one tattoo studio, private,
Can a minor get a tattoo?
18 years or older with a valid ID.
What about overlay issue?
So, to the lady who spoke, the 8 to 8 is the overlay rules, not the limited business rules, but this property is not within the Savannah Highway overlay. So it is not subject to those requirements, unless Matt saw something we didn't see previously. This is the first I've heard that someone thought. So no, the Savannah Highway overlay does not affect this property. So all of those restrictions on hours of operation, types of businesses, all those things do not apply here.
Thank you.
Well, your GIS indicates that it is.
Not the GIS I'm looking at. I don't know which GIS you're,
City of Charleston GIS.
I can, Madam Chair, if you want, I can put it on the screen.
Are there any other questions, applicant? Thank you.
You want me to put it up?
Sure.
Just 1 minute. Sorry, I gotta stop sharing this screen. And start sharing this screen. All right, so this is potentially going to look a little different than for those of you who've used the public facing GIS. This is our internal GIS system that we have. It's got a little bit more robust tools and what have you. You can see on layers that I have turned on. Basically, I have the city of Charleston jurisdiction because, as was mentioned, along Savannah Highway, there's a number of county pockets. So I wanted to be clear that we are looking at the city of Charleston. I can turn on base zoning, again, just so that you guys can see that. But then I have the Savannah Highway overlay layer turned on. And again, when you look at the legends, Savannah Highway overlay, it's those parcels that are marked with this hatching that you see there. And so the Savannah Highway overlay goes here to Parish. But the subject site that we are looking at is actually down here at, stop it, at Daniel Street. So when we zoom in on this Savannah Highway overlay down here, Daniel Street, where we're at in Avondale down here. So again, Savannah Highway overlay, not here I would love for you to show me where, because that seems like something we've got to fix. If the public facing overlay is showing something different than our internal GIS. No, I'd be again, very happy to talk to you about that, because again, I want to make sure that our information that the public can see is what we see internally.
It's not anything like that.
And I did work on the Savannah Highway Overlay District when I worked for the city, and I do remember that being the boundary. Not disagreeing that there could be a mistake on the mapping,
Right.
but I do remember it.
And I'll mention to our IT GIS department to take a look at the public facing and take a look at.
Regardless, it's still.
So yeah, so those rules would not apply in this situation.
Okay, thank you so much for looking that up. So is there discussion with the board?
Robert, would you mind putting back up the conditions that
Yeah,
you had mentioned?
yeah, just want to get back to my, there we go.
The variance is needed because it's a tattoo.
Because it's a specifically called out use in our use table, and as was mentioned, it's only allowed presently in 2 zoning districts. It's a permitted by right use in a business park, which is generally a large industrial, commercial, or a light industrial site, which again is more like warehousing and stuff like that. But those are the only 2 districts where it's in a possible use. And it's a straight permitted use in those districts. In order for it to go anywhere else in the city of Charleston, it would require an application for a use variance.
Is there any other discussion or questions or? I have one for the city regarding Mr. Sheridan's question about the hardship. And he asked, or I guess stated, that he understands that it's a hardship for the owner and not the applicant. Do you have any feedback about that?
I need a second because I have to look up that provision of code, because use variances are somewhat unique to Charleston and the state of South Carolina. So typically they would not be most other places don't have the provisions for them. So I have to look up the test for that and see exactly what that is, because I can't remember if it's specific to ownership or if it allows for the test to be a little different than the straight hardship test that we would do on like setbacks and lot coverage and what have you. So can you just one second? GIS.
Not.
My understanding that the opposition is because it's a tattoo.
And then it's called out zoning as an excluded as a use.
Right.
I do think that hardship is for use variance logically be for that other property, right? Like I can't use my space. That's not.
So the owner should
odd.
be here.
It's just kind of odd that it's the tenant requesting. Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, I guess we should wait until it comes back to. So everything could be on record. All right.
So, Madam Chair, so it appears, in just a real quick review, that and this is an area of the code that is, again, something I hope we fix with the rewrite is that the use variance language is under the variance tests, so there's not specific language that addresses approving a use variance in terms of the qualifications for that versus a development standard variance. So that makes this a little more of a squishy conversation, I think, and I think it's very situational. It's been characteristic of other use variances that have come before this board for allowing a use in a zoning district where that use is not otherwise permitted by the code. As far as owner, there's nothing in the code and nothing in the use or nothing in the sorry, I'm going to go all the way back to your variance test. There's nothing in the variance test that says anything about ownership. So in this case, we are talking about the use of the property for this particular use. But there's nothing that would preclude an applicant, agent, whatever, to make application here. So there's nothing that makes this an owner issue versus an applicant. And again, it would be very customary for the tenant to move forward with a use variance versus the owner of a property, because you're asking, again, not to build a building on a lot of insufficient size or setback issues. You're asking to conduct a business within that building that is otherwise has some issue by code. In this case, not being
Burgos,
permitted.
is the owner willing to give you a lease?
Yes.
So Robert, a prospective tenant is able to apply for a use variance, even though they don't have any legal ownership in the property or.
Correct. They have to have the permission
Once
of,
they're a tenant, they got legal ownership of
But
that
this is a-
property
but this
during
is
their
a
tenancy,
perspective.
so yeah.
but
Yeah.
yes, as long as they have authorization from the property owner to make application, which is one of the things that they have to check on
Okay, got it.
the thing, then they can make application. But again, I mean, if you do just a perusal of your agenda, our
Yeah.
applicants are almost never
Yeah.
the actual owners of the property, because almost always the applicant is the agent for the owner, the tenant, the developer, the contractor, the whatever.
Got it. Makes sense.
Thank you. Did y'all want to, I know there was some little bit of discussion. I know we talked about most of it, but while Summerfield was looking up that information, was there anything that you wanted to say?
I guess I was only, I guess, reiterating that the variance is because it's a tattoo parlor. And the opposition is because of that reason that we heard. But the use of the space seems to be relatively not very
Very low
impactful.
intensity,
Right.
low impact.
Especially if we restrict the hours.
Especially compared to some of the prior
And
tenants.
that's what I was looking at, like the radio station and things that were much noisier and
Sandwich
much
shop,
more
hair
detrimental to the
salon.
neighborhood.
Massage therapists.
Right. So it seems to me that it's a relatively low impact.
I have one question, since I know that we talked to the applicant about it, but would it be appropriate for if the board wanted to add a condition that there only be one tattoo artist operating
At a time.
at a time?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that sort of covers.
I would propose a condition of 8 to 6 work hours as well.
8 to 6.
Well, are y'all ready to end discussion
I'll
or?
move for that. Approval of the variance with these conditions altered as to number 3 for 8 to 6 restricted hours of operation, and number 4, one tattoo artist. How we want to say this, working at a time, say
One artist, one client, or occupancy by one artist, one client at any time. Is that? reflect what
Well,
you're trying to do?
if Ms. Burgos wants to work half a day one day and have partner work the second half of the day, I don't want to restrict that.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying one artist, one client at a time. So that way, and
It means there's not gonna be two chairs in there.
Right.
Right.
Two.
Right.
Yeah.
Which you probably don't want to.
Robert, when is I guess if the city were to change where tattoo parlors are able to operate through the new zoning, when would that take effect approximately?
I mean, that project was supposed to be done a year ago and we're still at least a year away.
Yeah.
And we've got a lot of community conversation, which this would be one of those elements when we start talking about use. And to be honest, I have not even received like any drafts of anything yet from the consultant team that's working on it. Or the legal team that's working with the consultants on it. So, we're absolutely, the contract on that goes through the end of next year. And we are anticipating it taking at least that long to get to the draft.
Yeah.
So, we would be, before there would be something adopted, and there's no guarantee that any change to this particular use within our zoning districts would make it all the way through the process. But at the ideal situation, given where we're at, we would be looking at anywhere from 18 to 24 months before we would have the new code adopted. That might have some additional flexibility for where tattoo studios could go in the city.
Robert, I have one more thought. Help me with it a little bit. So Amy will have to get a license to operate in this location.
Right.
Can we also make a restriction that only Amy, so if she cancels a lease or moves, that this variance does not travel with the property?
That one becomes a little more difficult. In large part because our licensing process is more of a pay your taxes process than it is a zoning compliance check. We do that really at COs. Once this is CO'd, it probably wouldn't require a new CO just because of a change of ownership.
Still be limited to one.
And
artist working.
yeah, all these conditions would still apply. So whether it's Amy or Miss.
So I'm just trying to figure out is there a way to sunset this? So it doesn't travel.
That was my thought too, if you guys are looking into doing some sort of change.
I mean, typically, no. The theory for this would be if it's approved for this use under these conditions, that anyone who meets the qualifications for this use in these conditions, as long as that use doesn't cease for 3 years, once she establishes it, would have the right to do it. So unlike the temporary sign, which again was temporary in nature, so we can get a little more creative with creating a sunset on that. It would be atypical to try to tie this to a particular operator, because you're talking land use and not operator. I know it's hard in this conversation to divorce yourself from that, because that's, part of the reason you may be considering Mr. Morrison's motion is because of this operator, because she presents a business model that you can agree with and believe will be compatible with the neighborhood, where maybe someone else could come in here and be able to adhere to these conditions and not be operationally as compatible with the neighborhood. You have the ability to put any condition on it you want. Just know that the property owner, that would be one of the places where maybe the property owner in the future could try to come and try to have that condition removed, because then you would be restricting his ability to, once you've granted a right for use at the property, for him to go out and try to recruit a new tenant that could be essentially turnkey, like to come in and just reestablish that particular use. So that would be the only cautionary element. But yes, you could put a condition that requires them to come back before this board for a review should the ownership change. That is more of a typical thing. That would require a new public hearing, but yeah, it's difficult to just revoke a land use based on a change of ownership.
I like your idea of review somehow.
Yeah, what about just a set time period?
You could set a time period for a review of the use variance. You could say that we're approving this with we want to review it in 2 years, 6 months, whatever you would want. And they would have to come back and you would hold a public hearing. And if there were issues, the neighborhood could bring those forward. If we've gotten any calls for service, we would make that a part of the record. At which point then you could take consideration on revoking the use variance at that point.
And in the meantime, the city would have its discussions on the wider.
Yes, we'd be continuing those discussions because as the first lady who spoke said, absolutely, this is while this is a one-off situation, this is not in any way, shape, or form an ideal. Again, that's why part of the reason why staff had been required to recommend for denial in this, because we would like to see if it's to be addressed. Again, it should be a systematic addressing, not continuing to do one-offs, because that just creates, that's not the purpose of zoning, to create a bunch of one-offs.
So if we suggest review in 2 years, you'll have to mark your calendar. The
Yes,
community
we will put it in the system with an alert that we will need to do a check back in 2 years, and that it would come before this board or whatever this board looks like in 2 years, ideally with a different person sitting here. Finally, at any rate, yes, in 2 years, it would come back before this board, so we would notify the applicant in September, or the owner. Just a reminder for board motion number 5, or condition number 5, your 2-year review of the use variance would be due prior to November, the first meeting in November.
It would be posted on the property.
Yeah, we would treat it just like a brand new application from that standpoint. So legal ad, post the property, public hearing.
Thank you.
For compliance with the conditions or?
Correct. It'd be compliant with the conditions, and then have there been any changes that have resulted? Again, that would give the neighbors an opportunity, if there have been problems, to present that, and then the board to potentially reconsider their decision.
I think that sounds good. I did, and I'm not trying to muddy the waters, but I guess my only concern is what Mr. Summerfield's talking about, the one-off. Is everybody comfortable with this being a one-off? And because it is a unique situation.
That's why I kind of suggested the 2-year thing too.
I like that.
Because if they're still reviewing it,
Mhm.
discussing it citywide, then we'll give them time to do that, and then maybe in 2 years there will already be. This might be approved.
I'd accept that amendment to my motion as official 2-year review.
Okay,
That's
so
how we do this. And then it needs a second still.
I second that.
okay, so can I read what the conditions are?
Sure.
Since there are 5 of them. So the first one is no signage or lighting in southward facing windows. 2, operations shall be by appointment only. 3, adherence to section 54-204B regarding restricted hours of operation from 8 to 6. Mr. Morrison?
Madam Chairwoman, if I might, can I just ask that condition 3 just read restricted hours of operation 8 AM to 6 PM? Because the adherence to that
Okay,
section doesn't,
sorry, yeah.
wouldn't,
Okay. Yeah.
well, wouldn't
Right.
matter with these new hours.
Okay, thank you. 4 is limit occupancy to 1 tattoo artist and 1 client at a time. Is that how that should read?
Yeah.
Okay. 5, review of use variance in 2 years.
5 board.
I'm sorry.
5 board, I just want to make it clear that the
Okay.
review is by the board, not like
Review.
a staff review, because that would be the other way you could go is staff should look at this in 2 years and bring it before the board if there's been complaints. But based on this, it sounds like you want it to come back before the board so the neighbors have an opportunity to come and report out.
Okay, thank you. Review of use variance by the Board of Zoning Appeals zoning in 2 years during the first meeting in November 2027. Okay, so we have Mr. Morrison and then who seconded it? Did anyone second it?
Well, we have to second it now since we got it all. So I'll second it.
Okay. Right, and so Mr. McKay seconds it. All in favor? Aye. Any names, any opposition? So, it's unanimous,
5-0.
approved.
So so for the record, as a use variance, it has met the threshold for a 2/3 majority, and has been approved, to move forward. And there is an appeals period, but, so just so you know, you won't be able to get your license tomorrow, but there is an appeals period.
Can you give us more information on that appeal process, please?
Yes, ma'am. There's two processes. One is an appeal by an affected participant. So that would be through the circuit court. The other mechanism would be if a member of city council would like to pull the item forward to council for them to consider overruling the board, then that city council person needs to notify me within 10 days of their intent to do so. And then it would be slated for a city council meeting in the near future for council to consider the question of whether to overrule the decision of the Board of Zoning Appeals zoning.
A procedural question would go to the circuit court.
Yes, anything else would go to circuit, any other appeal would go through circuit court. The only caveat to that, like I said, is if a council member wishes to have council vote to overturn the board, then that council member can inform me of that in writing, and then at that point, council could take action to overrule the Board of Zoning Appeals zoning. And if you need any more specific questions, please feel free to reach out to me or my team anytime tomorrow after 9.
Thank you, Ms. Brass. All right, the next item and final item on the agenda is B8, 83, 85, 89.5, 91, and 91.5 Nassau Street and 474 Meeting Street. East Side Council District 4, EMS number 459-05-03-053, 055, and 071. Zone General Business and DR2F. Requesting variance under section 54-30317 to provide 11 on-site parking spaces, 27 spaces required. At 89.5 Nassau Street, request variance from section 54-301 to build a second residential building with a 0-foot north side setback, 3 feet required, and a 4-foot 1-inch south side setback, 7 feet required. At 91.5 Nassau Street, request variance from section 54-301 to build a second residential building with a 2-foot 11-inch south side setback, 7 feet required. Owner is Star Gospel Mission, applicant Seaman Whiteside, Taylor Fletcher. Mr. Summerfield.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, so you can see the aggregated properties here that are going to make up in future properties that will make up the Star Gospel Mission campus here on Nassau, and actually includes, as mentioned in the item, 474 Meeting Street. So the main Star Gospel building here with a Main Street address, and then the new properties that have been added to it, and that they're adding additional capacity to serve the community that they serve that are here on Nassau Street. You have seen a previous application in here for 91 and 91 and a half Nassau. That one kind of preceded the rest of the campus because they needed to get underway so that they could open the first phase of their project, which is for increasing their capacity so that it's not just serving men who are transitioning from homelessness to housing, but also now they are serving women and children that are transitioning from homelessness to housing. And so that was to kind of get that effort, that first part of that effort initiated. You can see here the aerial of the campus site. And then here is the kind of the overall campus plan. It should be noticed that this overall project will happen in phases. So as they are currently doing a major capital fundraising campaign, as funds become available, they will initiate each phase. So this is not, they're not waiting until the very end, until they've raised all the money to get underway. There is some substantial work that they will be doing on the site as evidenced by the request. Again, 91 and a half Nassau was approved. Let's see, that was approved
August 5th.
August 5th, thank you. And there's some refinement of that, I believe, that is a part of this request as well. On the recommendation, because there are multiple variances here that affects different aspects, I did break these out. You can one motion, one vote these if you like, or you could take each kind of area of the requests separately. But we are recommending approval for the variance for the parking. Again, our parking requirement doesn't really address the unique nature of what the property is being used for, and the clientele and residents that would be there. So we are recommending approval of that parking variance. Additionally, because this is trying to create a campus, but you have existing lot lines, that creates these setbacks. But as a campus, these setbacks are not impacting any neighboring properties for the most part, and therefore they're kind of internal to themselves aspects until they get their mapping situation taken care of. And so staff is recommending approval of the variances for 98 or 89 and a half Nassau, as well as 91 and a half Nassau for these setbacks specific to constructing a second residential building on each of those lots as part of this campus.
Mr. Summerfield, just to clarify, that 91 and a half, that last variance request is a revision of the prior request. It was 3'2", I think.
Yeah.
Correct. Okay.
That was a 3'2" on the south setback. This is now a 2'1" or 2'11" south setback. They've made some adjustments and moved it, and it's slightly closer.
Okay. All right, city's recommendation is for approval. Is there, just by show of hands, anyone here in opposition to the variance requests? Is the owner or applicant here and wishes to speak? Yes. If you wish to add something, please come on forward. State your name and address for the record, please.
Hello, my name is Sean Gowan. I am a civil designer with Seaman Whiteside, the engineering and landscape architects for this project. I'm just going to give a little additional background on Star Gospel Mission and how they serve the community. Although we had a pretty good introduction already, so thank you for that. Star Gospel Mission has been serving the Charleston community since 1904, providing this transitional housing to families and individuals in need. In 1920, they moved to their current address at 474 Meeting Street, and since then have continued to grow the campus in an effort to better serve the men, women, and children in need and provide them with not only shelter, but a safe and dignified place to live. Today, that mission remains the same, and they are looking for these three variances that we view as essential to meeting the capacity goals in order to better serve the residents of the Charleston area. So we have for the, as far as the setbacks go, as it was stated with the setback encroachments, both of them are internal to the site. We don't propose any encroachments that are facing adjacent properties with different ownership. So this is all internal to the campus of Star Gospel itself. And as far as the parking reduction goes, due to the compact nature of the site, as well as the intended use of the site, the intended residents of the site, we don't find it to be realistic to be able to meet the standard city parking requirement without significantly cutting into the capacity goals for the residents that they hope to serve. And on top of that, the Star Gospel Mission has been running this transitional housing program for quite some time now. And they feel confident that with the parking spaces that we have provided here, that they will be able to adequately serve their staff and the residents of the community here.
Great, thank you. Questions? Anyone else here in support who wishes to speak on behalf of this application? Okay, thank you. Questions or comments?
Make a motion to approve it as all together.
As a slate of all three.
Second.
Second by Mr. Morrison. Thank you, Mr. McKay, for making that motion. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None are opposed. The motion is, the motion passes. The variances, all three are granted. Thank you very much. We are adjourned.
Thank you.